Shout out to King Shada for this topic. ESPN's Malika Andrews is catching a lot of heat right now. We're going to go ahead and get into this Black Top Buckets compilation, but first take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell for all updates. Won't waste any time. Let's go ahead and get into it.
I think that Dylan Brooks should be suspended for game 3 and possibly game 4. Look, you have to clean this up. Look, we talking about people saying we don't know if he did it intentionally. He fouled him on purpose and he did it with intentions. Okay, let's get that out the way. Here's the thing that we have to. Looking at the play,
you can't look at a person. Yeah, but you're making an assumption.
Yes, you can.
You can't look at a person and know what their intent was. It was a dangerous play, regardless. But you can't. Okay, I didn't realize we had a bunch of mind readers. Please continue.
Yeah, she's saying that she didn't know they could read their minds. What Malika is not taking into account is that she's just not talking to anybody about this, but she's talking to men who played at the highest level. They're experts.
Perk, how old were you when you dunked the ball for the first time?
Now here's when he humbled her.
21. 12.
12. How old were you when you dunked the ball for the first
12.
time? I was about 13 years old when I dunked the ball for the first time. I know what a fast break looks like. I have 4 months out in a season because I had my wrist taken out on a dunk. I know not necessarily the intent to hurt, but I know the intent to foul extremely hard, and that's the repercussion.
And here we go. No experience at all dunking basketballs. Maybe Dunkin' Donuts, everybody's been there. But come on. We're talking about players who dunked basketballs and played on championship teams. She's trying to discount their expert opinion as if she knows best.
You reported that Joe Mazzulla will be the interim head coach here. You can see his resume on your screen. He's been a Celtics assistant coach the last 3 seasons after spending the previous 3 seasons at Fairmount State. And he played for West Virginia between 2006 and 2011, and now could become the NBA's youngest head coach at 34 years old. And we'd be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service.
Wait, what in the world is going on? Why is Malika here and what's her purpose again?
No, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines.
It's really crazy how she could bring up his information from 13 years ago, but she was just arguing Stephen A. Smith up and down about not wanting us to bring up the women involved in the Udoka situation, especially the woman that's a part of the Boston Celtics organization that's allegedly married to a higher up. She had no problem discussing Udoka. And hey, I'm not taking up for that. He broke the rule. But we cannot talk about the women who break the rules? What's going on? And then she could talk about Joe right now. His situation's from almost a decade and a half ago, but we can't bring up what the women are doing right now.
Kobe Bryant, when I've seen him personally get in people's face and just cuss them out to their damn near in tears, and they're grown men. You know, Michael Jordan probably would have been fighting his teammates if he had to see some of the stuff that these guys do. So I feel like what makes LeBron great, he's always been knocked out. He's not a killer. He'll make the right pass, and I've always loved that. But I also think sometimes that hurts him because, not saying I've never had him as a leader, and I'm sure he has his ways of particularly leading this team. But I know for a fact if the two guys that I mentioned before saw some of the effort and energy that he saw from his teammates this year, it would have been an issue.
I mean, when Kobe, Dwight, and Nash all had injuries, though, they didn't win a playoff game.
They got to the playoffs, though.
But they didn't win a game. Neither did this Lakers team. The year 19, when he was averaging 22 on 37% shooting, Kobe did. The Lakers, they went 10 and 25 in the games that he played in. So I'm not sure it's. I understand what you're saying, Matt, but I'm not so sure it's saying, well, Kobe Bryant would have been the white horse. Kobe Bryant would have been the white horse.
Definitely not saying that, but what I'm saying is Kobe would get in, like he would not let the way some of his teammates play.
Sure, but if you get in someone's face and it doesn't turn into wins, then you're just getting in somebody's face.
But it's going to be a problem the entire season. And it just didn't seem like, at some point, it just seemed like everyone's just like, oh, well, forget it. It is what it is. And I just know, like I said, this is not even what LeBron has been able to do this season alone has been absolutely incredible. He continues to climb the historical ladder. But I'm just saying from a standpoint of just not having what he saw on a day in, day out basis sometimes, those guys wouldn't have had it like that.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger.
stop. The fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
When they asked, is anybody else going to be punished? And they said no. And my whole thing is this, right? These are some of the facts that have been out. These are some facts that I know that, you know, this relationship, one of these relationships that was had with Ime Udoka and one of these women, it was consensual, meaning that this woman actually played a part in it too. So my thing is, yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
I think that we need to circle back to what Shanae said, is that there was a investigation that was conducted by an independent law firm here, and I think that transparency is what will rule the day here. And so without having all of the information, it is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to...
Well, I'm not speculating.
Sure.
I have the information. I'm not speculating.
But what we have to go with here is the fact that an independent law firm came in, did this investigation, and the facts that they were presented, they came to the conclusion that Ime Udoka violated a policy that warranted a 1-year suspension. And I share your frustration with the lack of transparency, while understanding that there is some things that they need to, from a legal perspective, keep private. But knowing all of that, understanding all of that, we have to come to the conclusion that whatever rule, the conduct that was broken on one side, it is not the same on the other side. I thank you for your perspective.
If you haven't watched my previous video with the breakdown of the Stephen A. Smith versus Perkins and Malika, you can click the link below to check it out. But underneath that video, there was a comment from this viewer here who says, the misuse and excessive formality saturated with professionalism BS notwithstanding, Perkins was right. More than one person violated a policy, and although a disproportionate amount of attention on the coach may be informed by his visibility as a public figure, it doesn't require anyone to ignore the role played by the other consenting adult. He went on to say that Perkins doesn't need your polished permission to weigh in on something that you admit not knowing enough about, or posture as an educated gatekeeper that silences those whom she disagrees with on the guise of exercising discretion, and for all your deference to law firms. This is coming from a lawyer. Thank you. Shout out to everyone who weighed in on that video. Again, if you want to check it out, the link is below. You know, Kendrick was like he knew a lot about the situation, at least more than Malika. He's won a championship in Boston. He's very familiar with the organization and have more inside information. Malika cut him off and threw him off air, when all he said was that the women in the organization also broke the rule, just like Udoka. And when she was going back and forth with Stephen A., he was saying the same thing. She's only been in media for a few years now. Stephen A. has way more experience than her. She was trying to gaslight him and flip his words while trying to cover for the women. Stephen A., he's been doing this before Malika was even born. And there's no issue from Perkins or Stephen A. about Udoka being held accountable. The point is that when women break these rules at work, they're not held accountable at all. That's at the NBA, in the boardroom, and even in the classroom. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started below. I want to definitely hear what you think about all of this. Special thank you to our brother Edmund. I appreciate you, Edmund, for all of your support, as well as the brothers Tommy H, Ian, Dark Power, and our sister Mercedes. Thank you, Mercedes, for all of your support. Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to like and share.